Really good with math.
Math is neat. Okay, so if you're not a mathematician, when someone comes up to you on the street or you meet some rando and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" Like this is like, I hate that question, but it's like it's one of the second. It's probably the second question that people ask you.
Yeah. What's your name?
What is your name?
What do you do?
And then, how do you answer that to people?
That's interesting. It's funny because I have listened to other interviews of yours, and I loved some of the responses that you got. And if somebody's saying, "What do you do?" Right. Typically, I'm pretty much like into. Okay, you mean what do I do for work? I understand. Right, So I'd probably say I'm a singer-songwriter. Okay. If they're like, "Oh, hey, Andrew, like, what are you all about?" If they didn't ask me that, then the first things that they would hear me talk about would 100% be my wife, Christine, my daughter, London, my stepdaughters, who are just my daughters. And I would talk about family. I would talk about, like, exciting things that are coming up in life. And probably weaved in there, they would soon find out, oh, you play music.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't, and then if somebody didn't, if somebody already knew me, then they would probably instinctively just go right to, oh, you're a musician. Man,
it's funny when you say that. I feel myself getting a little emotional because we just, we kind of really connected a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was sweet to like get to know you, right? It's like you can get to know somebody. Yeah. It was so inspiring actually to like, first of all, hear how you speak about your wife. Like that is something that is so, just raw, right? It's like, and we're just chatting. Nobody knows about that conversation, but it's like this is like when there's no filters or no cameras or blah blah blah. And I love that so much. That really stuck with me. That was like two weeks ago. And we've known each other for 10 years or whatever, 8, 10, whatever, seen each other.
Yeah, met physically, but there's that that analogy of like, whatever's in your cup is what will spill out. And I feel that I am so lucky to have met Christine when I did, and I've never. Like, we talked about this on the way over, and I said, I just can't imagine what my life would have been without you. I didn't know what it could have been before I met her, but then meeting her, I was like, I didn't know there was people like you in the world. And the fact that I get to share my life with her is like, man, this is the best. And so that stuff just spills out. Sometimes I feel like I'm sorry, I keep talking about these things, but I'm so happy that you were happy about it.
I love it because, and again, it's like this. I know this is your second wife.
Yeah.
And how does that? So obviously you've experienced some loss, and this is part of what I want. A lot. I've also been through a divorce, and millions of other people have experienced loss in different ways, loss of a relationship. And I'd love to know how does that? How have you? If you're comfortable sharing about this,
no, absolutely.
Is like. I mean, the way you speak, I wasn't even planning on really digging into this.
No, I'm cool. I'm just imaning we're both in our bathing suits again, sitting in a hot tub. That's kind of how that conversation all started. So, hey, we're at least clothed.
But that's what I mean. Thank God. We don't have to blur.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm getting too hot. No, this is better.
Like to see you so genuinely, happy is just a poor choice of words, but it's like fulfilled. I mean, I would use words like, like just absolutely settled, safe, soft.
Yeah.
That's how you show up to me.
Amazing.
You don't
the word
know me
settled
that well.
is so good.
Yeah, we don't know each other that well.
Yeah.
But you just have this like, this is my person, and the way you speak about her and some of the things you shared about how you've worked through some hard stuff. So you've experienced some loss, right, in relationship, and yet manage that and how to doc. How do you? I mean, what's the question here? What do I really want to know? How have you managed to go through that kind of loss? Loss of a marriage.
Yeah.
And be able to kind of work through that in a healthy way, which it seems like you've really been able to do that. Like,
I'm really proud of the journey to get from that, because I know when, at the beginning of the degradation of a relationship, it's never like, oh, you're just trucking along and all of a sudden you're like, oh, today we're going to get divorced. So yesterday we were fine, and tomorrow we'll move on. Today we're just going to get divorced. That's not how it works. And so I think I was really, like, if I back it up much deeper than that, when I was born, my mom was 16 years old, and she was of Irish Catholic descent. And it was back in the day where her parents were like, this is bad. We can't let anybody know about this. So the whole thing was kind of covered up, hidden. Like, even her brother didn't know, her sister didn't even know that she had been pregnant. And she moved off to the island, and there was kind of like this whole story that was presented to the school and everything, so that she would never have, I would just never be part of that story. And so I was given up for adoption as a baby, and only realized after, like, going through the divorce process, talking to, a therapist prior to divorce, and the therapist kind of saying like, oh, tell me about your family life. I'm like, I have a great family life. And she goes, okay, tell me about, like, your upbringing and this kind of thing. I said, well, I was adopted. And she goes, stop right there. You were adopted. I was like, yeah. I got a great relationship with my birth family and with it. And so she's like, no, that's fine, but you have a fear of abandonment. And I was like, I don't. And she's like, you do? And I was like, I don't. She's like, it's impossible not to. Were you held when you were first born? Were you held by your mother? Wow. And I was like, I have no idea. And then I asked, and I wasn't. And so from the very, very moment that I came into this world, the voice that I knew, the heartbeat that I had heard, I was not with that person. And so right out of the gate, you got this underlying subconscious fear of abandonment. So then fast forward into what my career is, which is performing for other people, trying to be accepted, playing songs please accept me, love me, clap for me when I'm done, please take me in. And then all of a sudden you come into this space where there's this degradation of a relationship, and you're going, I'm not wanted by you either. Like, how does this work? And so it was only in hindsight, looking back, did I sort of learn the lesson that, like, that relationship went the way it did, and that's fine. And then, but looking back at it, part of the reason why I think it was so hard at first was because I was hanging on with fear. Not hanging on with, like, a confidence that it's like, I can move forward. I will be okay. Right. I have control over this, like, my part of this situation, or here's the role that I played in this relationship or in the degradation of it. Right. And instead it was this deep-rooted fear of abandonment that was holding on to this relationship, instead of going, no, this is what's happening. And I think once I got through, you kind of go through this, like, you go through a thing where you're angry, and then you go through a poor me phase. And then I got to a phase where I felt nothing. And I think that was probably the worst feeling I had, because there was no feeling. And I'd never experienced...
You've always been a big feeler? Like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you strike me as someone who's very, you're very warm, and you're excitable, and it's like, let's do this.
Yeah,
like
totally.
You seem, you don't seem like a nummy kind of...
No. No. And so that was shocking to me. Like, that feeling of just apathy, kind of nothingness, where you're just like, I don't care what happens. Wow. I don't know what, I don't know what to expect. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Right. Because I couldn't feel anything. And I would try, you know, and I just couldn't. And I remember feeling just fully defeated. And then I don't know what happened, but just one day I was alone in the house and I was like, enough. I'm done.
I want to pause there because this is the whole part of the whole reason
Getting
why
unstuck.
I'm doing this, right? Is because at a point, I've heard from one of my counselors actually that numbing is one of, I think there's 3 major responses to pain, trauma, hard stuff. And one of them is numbing. It's actually a mechanism that all humans can and will use at certain times to protect ourselves from feeling. But it just goes into this, like, instead of being able to feel this, like, oh yeah, or like this, ooh, I want to kill myself, or whatever it is, you just go into this, it's this low, So, but what I really want to know, I wasn't, this is funny, I wasn't even planning on digging into this. This wasn't really my plan. But obviously it's so true and real to you, and I love that you're willing to share about it. You said, well, and then one day, I'm not sure what happened. I want to know what happened. Like, you were in your home, and one day, like at a certain point, you went from anger to numb to like, I can't feel anything, to
It felt like it was almost, I wish I could remember the movie reference. There's I can't remember what the movie is, but there's a part where the character has gone through grief or some sort of trauma, and they just kind of look at themselves in the mirror and they go, enough. Like, basically telling themselves, enough. Like, you're done.
But the just even the fact, the courage or the shtick, whatever it is that makes you get off the couch, off the chair, and just be like, and into the mirror. Like, what is that? Like, how what is that? What?
It's interesting. So part of me, I'm definitely somebody who would, like, deflect. I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go hang out with friends. I'm gonna try and, like, So if I'm feeling kind of bummed, I'll, like, surround myself by distraction. That's what I used to do anyway. So as much as I am a feeling person, I was also very aware that, like, there's certain feelings I didn't want to feel. So I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'd rather go out with friends, or I'd rather have more drinks than was necessary, or whatever. Like, just try and, like,
Have you done the Enneagram by chance?
Yeah.
Do you know what number?
I feel like I was like a 2 with like an 8 wing, or the other way around.
Okay, Okay, I thought you might be a 7.
What's the 7?
7 is like avoids pain. This is me.
Oh.
Is like avoids pain, but also a lot of them are entertainers, performers. But they're very. I can see you as being very 7-y. 2s are like serving, helpers.
Yes.
The helpers, I think it's called that.
Yes. Okay. And then I can't remember what an 8 is.
8 is more like.
I like to have this all just back in your head.
Needs to be, wants to be in control.
Yes.
Well, whatever.
Okay, so see, if you put those 2 together and then you insert fear of abandonment. So 2 wants to care for other people, serve them.
Yeah, help.
I will be accepted. And then here, it's like, oh, I need to, like, entertain and be controlling and be, well, not controlling, but, like, be in control of.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I'm in control of, then I can't be hurt.
Oh.
Right? So you put those 2 together, and I think that's probably where. Okay. I should do it again, though. I should try and figure it out. Yeah. But anyway, so I think.
You were saying something cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was cool, but I appreciate it.
I think so.
So those would have been the habits that I would have taken on if I was going through any other sort of grief or any other challenges in my life, is I would try to surround myself with other people or distract or whatever. But my divorce happened through COVID. So you couldn't go out. You couldn't get together with groups of people. So I was almost forced to live in this house with these walls that I had known, and now all of a sudden I couldn't leave them. And in a way, it felt like the world was saying, deal with your stuff. Deal with it. And I was in this, now looking back, beautiful position to almost have been sent away into like a tent up in the woods where it was like, deal with it. You're not coming out until you've dealt with it.
Oh, man.
And it was awesome. Like, it was awful, but it was awesome. And it helped me shed all of the any of the anger, any of those things. I wrote a bunch of songs over that time. And I had a friend who had literally gone through the same experience as I was going through, but like 6 months in advance of me. And so I remember sending him one of the songs that I had written that I never planned on releasing. I just sent it to him. Yeah. And he was like, dude, get these out now because you're about to turn the corner.
Oh.
And so it was beautiful to have a friend that could say, you're almost there. You're almost there. And so, you know, to have somebody cheering you on from the finish line because, you know, maybe they came in first and you're still running and you're 20th.
Yeah, right.
But they're like, you're close, man. I've already seen the finish line.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Oh, I love that.
And so it was awesome. Like it was a real awakening for me. And I loved that it also exposed all of these things in me that I had been repressing for so long to sort of keep my relationship well. Is it was, you know, oh, if I don't do this, maybe this will be the result. Or if and instead I all these things started to blossom up in me. And so I feel like they were kind of growing like plants, and then all of a sudden they broke through the surface. And maybe that was the moment where I was like, enough. I'm done. I'm not going to grieve this anymore. I'm moving through it.
Okay, so there's two kind of beautiful things that I see that you've just said. One is you said the world kind of offered you this hey, this is enough. There's a chance. It's like you going up instead of you going up in the woods in a cabin and it's like
how many Advils do you take to numb a headache instead of just drinking more water when it's dehydration? Like, but you can keep doing it. Except for the real problem is you're like, I have a headache and I need to take the time to drink water or have a nap or something.
Okay, so this is wild. I just saw like this past week, or maybe we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, I just saw Dr. Gabor Mate.
Okay.
And he was talking about how, depression is a major deal. And he's suffered with depression himself and has gone, and he's an MD, he's a doctor. Yeah. And he's like, a lot of doctors, if you go into the doctor, say, yeah, I've got depression. Yeah, they'll prescribe, here's your pills, here's your stuff, which is basically numbing of the nerves or numbing. I mean, I don't know the science behind it, but he says, you got to look at the word depression. It's actually depressing your emotions. Yeah. And so not only pills can help and prescribing, blah, blah, that's all great. But there's also this, like what you're talking about is that, there's also some things that need to come out.
You got to let it out.
You have to let it out, which is, I love what you're saying there, is like, there's this honesty. And in the recovery world, and the other episode that I did, was the gift of desperation. Yeah. You call it a gift in the recovery world because you get to that point where you're like, I actually can't move forward anymore. I'm desperate for something else. Yes. Desperate for something to change. Yeah. But I love that in your story, you like saw that somehow in your living. It's like, well, actually, I want something to change. Yes. Am I willing to? Yeah. And you chose. Yeah. Yes. To grab onto it.
Choice is a huge thing.
So you had this choice, and this is the second piece, is what you mentioned, is you also had a buddy who, I even love your facial expression when I said that, right? It's like, oh, that says so much, right? It's like this person had already been through it, experienced it, and there's this beautiful trust or love or...
He was not a friend that I had for a long period of time.
Okay.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
No, he was somebody that I was, like, I had met him. We both grew up in Vernon. I knew of him. He knew of me. Yeah. And when I met him, I was like, hey man, like I just moved back to Vernon kind of thing. And I had sort of seen him on Instagram, and I had seen that like he had a kid that was like literally born 2 days different than my daughter. And I was like, and I saw him and his wife, and I thought, oh, this could be like a friendship that maybe could happen. Wow. And we ended up connecting through a different reason. And when I met him, I said, oh, so, your wife and a daughter. He goes, I don't have that right now. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm going through a divorce right now. It's awful and everything. I'm like, oh my, I had no idea. Okay. And then, a few months later, I'm in the same boat, and now him and I start chatting, and he was just like, every single day he would send me a text, and he'd go, how are you today?
Wow.
How are you today? How are you today?
Stud.
He's amazing.
Oh man.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And even the funny thing is that we have both gone on to remarry. We have our own separate lives. Yeah. We see each other very, very little, if at all. Yeah. And but I still think of him so fondly because of this role that he played in my life in that period.
So it's just like in that moment.
Yeah.
That's what you needed.
Yes.
Right? And so whatever you want to call it, the world gave you that, the universe. It's funny because even talking to you now, we've been focusing on this, your relationship, which was not, I mean, we have to understand, you have to understand, like you're an incredible musician and successful beyond what most musicians would dream of, right? You've lived in LA, you've been signed, you are signed.
I'm not signed anymore, but yeah, I was.
But you have hits on the radio, and it's funny because one of your biggest hits that I know of, Loving You Tonight, which I'm sure a lot of people know you by.
Yeah.
Is like this happy,
yeah.
This is a summer love song, right? Yeah. And so it's funny because we're talking about this, how do you deal with breakup when we're so I don't want to excuse the beautiful success that you've had and that you I want to honor that and it's just really, what is it? It's like, it shows a lot about your character that you're actually willing to be so open and honest about this because, a lot of people could listen to that song and watch your videos. There's millions of views and it's like, that guy he's in love. He's the perfect guy.
Yeah,
right?
always like, happy. No problems.
Right? It's like, this is what social media can do. So I love that you're willing to share it, but I think it's also...
And to qualify that, like, I genuinely am a very happy person, and I'm very thankful for... I know that internally it can... there are challenges that a lot of people face. Internally, it's hard for them to switch that thing in their brain and go, today I'm choosing happiness. Today I'm choosing to look for things to be grateful for if I don't already have the things I'm grateful for. In my mind, it's like, most of the time, I'm very happy. And going through this and a few other situations in my life put me, sort of where I kind of felt like I fell down. And I needed to find the best way to heal through that.
Yeah.
And because now, like, when you said settled, it's like I've heard that from a few people where people have said,
cool.
You seem so settled. Like my booking agent, I was out at a conference with her and she said, ever since you've been with Christine, you just seem so settled. And even on stage. And cool. Even on stage, you just seem so like confident and settled. And I was like, because that now is just like, that is that coffee spilling over. That is me going, my life is so like, I know we talked about this at length, but it's like Christine, I remember when I met her. And so, if I take it one step back, so there I am in that stuck phase. Then I'm done feeling stuck. So I don't know what it looks like, what the next step is, but I know there has to be a step.
Okay, yeah.
I don't even know what the step is.
Yeah.
And if somebody were to say to me, are you ready for another relationship?
Right.
I don't know if I would have said yes. I just would have said, I'm ready to not be not ready for a relationship. So
there's a lot of math.
Yeah, a lot of math in there. I am done with feeling lame, or done with feeling I am not in control of the situation. Yeah. Instead, I'm going to take. I remember I had this friend, and he had on his door, I will not let what I can't control define what I can enjoy. I will not let what I can't control define what I can enjoy. And I remember thinking of that and going, the control that I do have is a lot. Like I have a lot. I have my health, I have my daughter, I have my family. There's so much here that I love.
Yeah.
And I'm living in a good spot. Yeah. COVID was kind of waning a bit, I'm like, okay, thank goodness. And so finally they opened up the doors to be able to perform again. And it was limited audience. So I went out and I played a show at a winery. And there was Christine with some friends that had come out to the show because it was like, there's wine, it's outdoors, and there's music. And she's like, yes. And we got a picture together at the end of the show. And I was supposed to be really far away from everybody. And with her, I was like, I don't want to be far away from you. You seem like I'm intrigued by you. And she put her arm around me, and when she touched like the side of like my hip, I just felt this electricity go through me, and I was like, I don't know what that was. and I don't know that I'm ready for it, but I know that I have to find a way to be ready for it, because if I'm not, I'm going to miss out on something pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And so her and I chatted after the show, and we exchanged numbers. Not in a, like she would, you know, if you were to talk to her about it, she'd be like, I was not hitting on him. Like, not at all.
Yeah, her left hand wasn't elsewhere, right? That caused...
Yeah, no. She was fully like, just like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. And like, you know, yeah, sure, we'll trade numbers, but like, I'll probably never hear from him. And then she heard from me after I packed up the vehicle, because I was like, there's something about her.
Okay, so this is, I mean, this is such a beautiful, like, almost bonus to what has, you know, transpired from this stuckness, or what the sadness, whatever. Yeah. And we have a mutual friend, Brad, who I interviewed also, right? And we talked about this Buddhist philosophy of pain is inevitable. Everybody on earth will experience pain, but suffering is not.
Yes.
Where it's, you can wallow in that, you can sit in it, you can stay in it, but at some point, you can actually choose. What you were talking about, right? Like choice. Yeah. There is a choice. You can choose to get out. So I'm curious, and I love your story. Like, you have a beautiful story, right? It's awesome to see you so settled and happy and content, and like brag about your wife. Like, it's beautiful. And there are thousands, maybe millions of people who are not content in their current relationships, or have just their relationships have ended. They're heartbroken. They're trying to figure. They're stuck. I've been there too, where I'm like, man, I can't imagine ever not feeling this pit of like loss. Yeah. Right? Like I can't imagine. I can't even imagine it. It's like, this will be here forever, no matter what you tell me. Yeah. And you had a friend, or you know, someone, a friend, and you, one day you looked in the mirror and you were like, this is going to stop. What would you say to someone who is, maybe in that stuck place in their marriage or relationship, where like, I don't have hope. I don't think this could ever change. I don't think she or he or they will ever change. I can't ever imagine getting over this. What would you say or sing to? So, have you ever written a song for someone in that?
Like being stuck.
Oh yeah. Someone who's dealing with that kind of. I don't know. What would you?
I think if I have or not. Maybe a little. I'm sure I've alluded to it in songs. If somebody was just coming out of a relationship and it seemed like this is the end, there's no getting better, there's, you know, it's interesting because so many of those conversations that I would have with somebody else are the same conversations that I have with my 9-year-old. And it's not because she's coming out of a relationship, but it's because she's learning sort of the dynamics of friendship and trying to understand it, because they're all, you know, grade 4, grade 5, and you know, Christine warned me going into it. She's like, grade 4 and grade 5, those are some years. I'm like, okay. She's like, especially for little girls. There's a lot of unintentional drama that exists, and so much of it is because people are not doing what you want them to do. And we're constantly having the conversation of like, do you have control over that person? No. What do you have control over? You. How you respond, how you accept, or how you react. And we had gone through this course as a couple, which talked a lot about how if you can get strong enough in your own character, in your own life, in your own intention, then nothing externally can rock that. It can't affect it. And that's something that I've been trying to work on personally, and I've been trying to encourage my daughter to do it, because I couldn't even imagine if I knew that stuff when I was 9 or 10 or 11 years old. Because it's like, okay, so somebody said something and it knocked you off course. So you were excited about this, and then, you know, say it's something as simple as you were dancing in the hallway and you were having a great time because you felt excited. Then somebody says, that's a dumb way to dance. Right. And now you're deflated. You allowed that person who maybe was having a rough day to comment on something you were doing internally and externally, which now has affected you. And that sucks. So how much more awesome could your life be if you were able to just stay focused on like, I'm loving doing what I'm doing. Yeah. And that's fine that you said that. And it doesn't really matter because you don't actually have control over what they said or what they did. So I would say to somebody that is going through a breakup, something that is just feeling like you're at the bottom. Initially, I'd probably say, go jump in a cold lake. Like, actually, and realize that you can do it.
Oh, okay.
Sit in that for 3 minutes, get your breath calm, and then walk out of it and realize that you can do it because you have that much control.
That's what you did a couple weeks ago, too. I was like, wow, how do you do this? This is dumb.
But it is, yeah. But I find that, like, that there are so many things that you actually have control over and you don't realize you do. And as soon as you start to, like, grab those things and create really good, positive, intentional habits, then that's going to be the thing that starts to pull you out of whatever that is. And yeah.
Oh, so as a musician,
yeah.
Have you written a song about that theme or songs about, like, what would you, like, if you had to send someone one of your songs that was in that situation, what song would that be?
Okay, so there's a song I wrote, it hasn't come out yet. I don't know if it will, probably will, but it's a song called Show Me Love. And it was, the way it sounds, if you just heard the chorus, would be very much the singer saying, show me love. Like, I want to be loved by you, show me love. But if you listen to it with the intention of hearing the words, you would notice that through the verses, it's very much like, this is me, like, lying on the bathroom floor, no idea how to get up from this place. And then something internally is saying, show me love. So it's saying, show it to yourself. And not in a, you know, like, the thing that I'm...
goosebumps again. Shoot.
The thing that I'm always intrigued by or frustrated by, maybe, is there's a common theme amongst people who are struggling where a counselor or a friend will say, hey, you got to take care of yourself first. Think of it as like the airplane scenario. The oxygen masks pop out. You got to put that on first before you help anybody around you. What they don't say is that's like a 30-second thing. It's like, or less. It's like 10 seconds. It's not pull that down, put it on your face. Still working on me. Still working on me here. I'm sorry, you're dying. I'm still working on me. It's fast. So when I always liken it to, like, you've got to get to the root of what it is that is causing you to struggle and be that down. Get to the root of it and then realize that as soon as you are at a place where you can help other people and you can be part of other people's lives again, you need to get there. Because otherwise you're just going to wallow in the problem and go like, oh, my bike's broken, so I'm going to keep tinkering at my bike. And it's like, Nico, you already fixed the problem. Get back on the trail. Like, there's no point in stalling. And so I think for me, when I think of that airplane analogy, I think of the immediacy of it. It's like you need to surround yourself with people and then get that oxygen into your lungs so that you can help those people around you. And then
so getting people around you is part of.
I would say, actually, yeah.
I mean, you just dropped that, so I'm.
No, I would say, because even as I listen to the story, you know, coming out of my face,
it's
like, you know, I think about my buddy through that whole scenario, and then I think about the influence that Christine played in my opportunity to get better. She even just helped me with different things that I was saying, the narrative that I was speaking out loud, in order for me to get through it and go, no, what control do you have in this? What strength do you have in this?
It's so fascinating because every interview I've done everyone has sort of answered the same question. You know, you got to have some people in your life that, like, having good friends or good, like, a community is so important. You know, you probably heard that term, or you probably taught it to your daughter, is, you know, show me who your top 5 friends are, and I'll show you where you'll be in 5 years. You know, that whole shtick. But it's, it's beautiful. I love what you're saying, and also that airplane mask thing. I was like, when I first heard that, I was like, I would never do that.
No?
Oh no, my daughter and my son are right beside me. Like, I would never even think about that. I would just try and
boom.
It's not but it's not possible. It's not logical. But the principle is beautiful.
I was paddleboarding in May years ago when my daughter was, she must have been 3 maybe, and it was really cold. It was like the water was really cold, not cold enough that you'd go hypothermic, but it was cold. And she would sit.
That's where you just sent her out. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Well, she would sit on the front of my board, and I was paddling. She had her own little like half kayak paddle, and she said, "Dad, can we go see the boats at the part of the lake?" I said, "Yeah, that's a pretty big paddle, and it's not warm out here, so I'm gonna paddle pretty hard."
Yeah.
So, and anybody who's paddleboarded knows that you're not going that fast, but when you paddle really hard, you can pick up some sort of speed. So I said, "We're gonna go. Just do not put your paddle in the water." And she goes, "Yeah, no problem." So I'm paddling as hard as I can, and she's like, "I'll just try." Puts it in, and her putting that in pulled her right off the board, and she just went off the board into the cold water. Oops. She hits the water. She's got a life jacket on. She bobs back up. And she's like, "Ah!" screaming, and I've already now, because of my inertia, I'm probably 30 feet from her already.
Right.
By the time that she said, "I've already put my paddle in the water to slow myself down," but if you've also paddleboarded, they don't turn very quickly. It's like, this is a bus. And it's cold. So I'm like, I'm not jumping in to go get you, because then I'm going to be freezing and shivering on the way back, and we're pretty far from where we have to get to. So I turned around and I got down on my knees, and I, brought the paddle towards her, and I pulled her back up on the board, and she was like, "Why didn't you jump in to get me?" As I'm holding her and keeping her really close so that I could warm her up.
Good one.
And I said, "How warm is my body right now?" She's like, "So warm." And I'm like, "And is it making you warm?" And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "That's because I didn't jump in the water." So I needed to make sure that our board stayed, because I didn't have a leash on.
Right.
And so if I would have jumped off the board would have gone. Now I'm in the water. We're both cold. Yeah. Now I've got to get us both on the board. So instead, I'm like, this was the thought process I had, not because I wanted to leave you there, but because I knew that the end result would be more strength.
What an analogy.
So I do feel that way. I would do the same, if the airplane mask came down,
sure,
I would want to be like, "Oh, put this on right away." But I'd be like, "You're going to be okay for a minute.
Right.
I'm going to put this on me so that I can then help you effectively." And then, hopefully we'll... I also never want to be on an airplane when those oxygen masks come down.
Yeah, that would be neat.
I don't want that.
That'd be super neat
to
avoid.
To avoid it. Yes, 100%.
Not be on there.
Yeah. I mean, there's more psychological things that I'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to fly again."
Okay, I have just maybe a couple questions. I mean, part of me is like, oh man, I can't wait to hear this "Show Me Love" thing. And there is a guitar here. If you want to play it or play something, you're welcome to.
Okay.
And I also have one question that I've asked all of my interviewees, which is a little kind of a random question. And it is, if you were in a room with everyone that you've ever met, they're all here.
Wow.
Who would you gravitate towards, and why?
Wow. Is that meaning like...
Anybody, dead or alive, like anybody you've ever met in your whole life.
Oh, wow. And you're not, like, you're
they're just all in a room.
I don't know why I'm trying to, like, this is just a random question. I'm just asking it. I mean, I naturally gravitate towards, like, my wife and family, but if I had, if they were excluded from...
No, they're
there too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ever since I had my daughter, everything else is like, it's so important still, but it's so, like, I have confidence with Christine because we're both adults and we both, been through our own things or whatever. It's like, even if we go to a party, it's like, we can go around and like circle the room kind of thing, and she'll talk to some people and I'll talk to other people, whatever. And I'm not worried about that. And if I travel, it's like, I can keep in touch with her. But ever since having my daughter, it's like, she's one of the people that, like, when I can crouch down and like make eye contact, everything else in the room just disappears.
Oh, I love
and
that.
so it's like, I feel like that would be definitely part of it, but then I would see nobody else in the room.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but otherwise I feel like if it was dead or alive.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a crazy question, Nico. Huh. There's one little boy that I don't want to say misfortune of seeing, but he and I were at a camp together and there was a tree that fell and it took his life. And I think I would probably talk to him. Like, if he was there, I'd probably go to him. And
why is that?
Because he was only 8. And so I've often been so confused about that, like why, like what, but at the same time he lived with so much energy, it's like he knew. And so I'd be curious to know if he did. Like did he pack in so much into his life and so much like love and acceptance and energy and excitement because he knew the limited amount of time he had? Like I'd be curious about that.
What do you think?
I think he knew. I think he knew that like...
Wow, that's a wild thought. That's...
Yeah, I think he knew that it was temporary. I think he knew that he was there for a reason, and he had the family that he had and the people around him that he knew and loved, and he knew that there was only that much time.
What would you say to him?
I'd probably just ask him. I'd be like, well, I'd be like, what are you even up to? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, where have you been, man?
what are you even doing? Yeah, I think, maybe that, or like, did you know? Like, did you know leading up to it? Did you know?
That's a wild thought.
Yeah.
About someone leaving, especially at 8. Well, and you shared a little bit about that experience.
Yeah.
Like that was a big moment for you. Like that.
Yeah.
That obviously that shook you pretty good, but also even now, you've been inspired lately.
Yeah.
From that, and you were 8 at the time.
No, I was 12. So
12,
he was best friends with my brother, who was 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has that shaped you now, or like what kind of juice is that, gas is that put in your tank to do what you want to do now?
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to your conversation with Brad, and when he was explaining how he would journal to be able to get out the thoughts, and how you don't learn from the situation, you learn from the reflection of the situation.
Right. Yeah,
and I've commented on this a few times when I've been in different interviews and stuff, and people have asked me questions about my career or like my decisions to do certain things. And it's in those spaces where stuff comes out of my mouth sometimes, and I'm like, that's the first time I've heard it.
Oh, that's wisdom.
Yeah, it's either wisdom or it's like it's telling me something where I'm like, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that was something that mattered to me, or I didn't realize that was something that affected me. And so looking back on that scenario and seeing somebody lose their life at such a young age, it could have put me into one space where I could have said, that was awful, that was very traumatic. I am, at the minimum, afraid of forests. And at the max, I'm afraid of life. I'm going to live a life of, complete non-abundance because I'm totally afraid that I'm going to lose everything I have, just like he did.
Yeah.
Instead, it spun me the other way, and it put me into a place of like, just an absolute lust for life, of relationships and wanting to be around people, but also like to explore and to like to breathe and to feel air and to know that like there's something always coming and there's like steps to be taken.
I love that.
And so now, in my 40s, years and years and years later, I think that still influences me, still inspires me. I would say even from the initial story that we were talking about, the whole conversation with myself in the mirror saying enough, is realizing like, I can't have any more days where I wallow in anything because there's too much life ahead. And I don't want to limit how many days are left because I've spent too many days here. I need to get to the next one. And so moving forward, even from this point, just here with you, is like, I'm really excited to try and encourage people to understand the limitations of what life has. And it's not limitations of what you can do, it's limitations of like actual breath on Earth. You don't have as much as you maybe think. Physically. So, I have a 98-year-old neighbor, still mows his own lawn. He's amazing.
Oh, what a G.
But he's so in a way lucky that he still has life and he still enjoys his life and he has conversations with people that he enjoys. From what I understand, I mean, I haven't dug deep with him and been like, do you wish you were dead? But I can say that from experiencing that at such a young age, I'm not thankful that, he lost his life, but I'm thankful for the lessons that I was able to learn from it. To look at life as like, man, that could be short.
Right, yeah.
It's
such a different perspective. I mean, I've heard this, you didn't mention the word, but I think about the word victim. A lot of people have a bit of a lot of a victim, like this happened to me. Yes, pain is inevitable. You will experience pain. And poor me, I experienced this pain. And sometimes that pain is, I mean, people have experienced pain that is beyond what I will ever be able to comprehend. And yet, you know, I love what you're doing here is like, you can look at it as, okay, well, this is too scary. Never go into a forest, never go around trees, you know, or you can say, wow, 8 years old, I wonder what this guy, what is the life that, you know, and how can some of my best mentors, they're my spiritual parents. They've adopted my late wife and I, and Bob and Sandy, and they always said the best way to honor somebody's life is to continue the legacy they started. Beautiful. And so it makes me think about even this 8-year-old, right? That you, obviously a traumatic, tragic situation, and one way to look at it is never step foot near a forest. Don't go to watch out for the trees, right? It's like, or it's like, oh man, let's make the most out of this. I mean, it even sounds a little
well, and it's also not like, you know, again, like we talked about at the very beginning, it's like, I didn't go from like, wow, I got smoked by a tree, I saw this little boy pass away, and then the next day I'm like, let's go for a hike. Right. It's like, no, there was some work that had to be done.
That work.
And
that work, but the work is, you mentioned this a couple times, like there are choices in that work.
Yeah.
And there are also invitations, it sounds like, right? The world or people, whatever you want to call it, God, whatever you want to call it.
Invitation idea. That's cool.
That's my word for this year, is invitation, because I love the idea of invitation, right? It's like everything's an invitation. You know, I invited you to come here, and you took the invitation, and I love how even this tragic situation has turned into an invitation for you to be able to share part of your story. And ultimately, I mean, I just see you as a hope bringer, right? A hope giver. This is what you want to do with this, right? Is or part of it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's like that's why I want people to know you. I want more people to know you.
Thanks.
Right? Know about what you're about, because that's inspiring.
I get so excited when I see people move away from just the norm, from what they like. I remember reading a book forever ago, and how it's like, you know, so many of us, it's like we have a garage, we pull our car into it, the garage door closes, you go into your house, your neighbors never see you. Back in the day, it was like front porch sitting, and everybody, you know, you'd walk by, and you talk to those people, you talk to those people. And, you know, sitting beside somebody on a plane, that got like AirPods, would tune them out, right? But like, what conversation might you have with that person, right? What opportunities, what invitations are out there? And that's the thing that excites me, when you start to open yourself up to those kind of things. And like, so I don't know, I think it relates. So Christine and I, when I met her, who I saw her as, I'm not sure she fully saw herself as. And it was so fun to like explore that. And I would say the same thing about myself to her, is I think she saw things in me that I didn't see. And that's a beautiful thing in a relationship, isn't it? Where you see somebody or you see somebody in somebody else, and you want to see that part of them grow.
That's the most beautiful.
It's amazing.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that you just said that.
And so I think that's when you start to accept the invitation, and you start to be intentional about what it is that you're looking for or not looking for, then you can make the choices that will then propel you to the next thing, which will help you grow. And that would be the next chapter of my life, where I'm very excited to hopefully encourage people to see what it is, or if they can't see it, find people around them that are going to help them see it, so that they can, and it's been a cliche phrase forever, but find the best version of themselves.
Sure. Yeah,
but it's true.
Yeah.
Because if you start to grow and change, like I always thought it was so funny when you'd meet somebody you hadn't seen in 10 years, and they'd be like, oh, you've changed.
Right.
And like, it sounds so negative. And yet it's like, you haven't
changed.
That's so much worse. You haven't changed at all. It's like, oh no, it's been this long and I haven't changed.
Right. Okay, so we'll wrap this up here. So you talked about the next chapter in your life. So your life is a book. So what's the next, if you had to name it, right
Yeah.
now, the next chapter in your life.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
If I named the next chapter.
Yeah.
That's a great, man. Just been reading Harry Potter, so I'm thinking about Harry Potter
Yeah,
chapter
right.
names.
You can always change it.
Yeah.
It's not published yet.
Fair. It's so interesting. I wonder if people name the chapter before they write it. Do they?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Like intuitively or subconsciously.
Yeah.
Right. You do things. I mean, I'm totally putting you on the spot.
No, I love it. It's funny because I can see it visually. I just can't think of the words that go with it. It's like
What does it look like then?
It feels like I'm finally stepping into what I was supposed to be doing. But I could never have stepped into that.
Oh, I love it.
Because everything was,
Right.
I had to learn here so that I could step into this.
Okay, so that, I mean, I'm not going to give you the name. I mean, I'm just curious, but like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's cool.
What, like, that's what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, what a name for a chapter, if that's it, or
I
if
love
that
it.
was it. But
Yeah.
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably and openly and honestly. Yeah, it's just really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.